This is the story about Moses the Kitten. It's written by James Harriet and illustrated by Peter Barrett. And here's the first picture. This is over in England. I think maybe even up in Scotland, at least in the Dales. Those are some fat-looking sheep. And it's written by the vet. There have been times in the winter when I have regretted being a vet, and this looks like one of them. I had driven about 10 miles from home, thinking all the time that the Dales always looked their coldest, not when they were covered with snow, but as of now, when the first sprinklings streaked the bare flanks of the fells in bars of black and white, like the ribs of a crouching beast. And now in front of me was a farm gate rattling on its hinges as the wind shook it. And the vet is there. Now he's going to go in through the gate and up to the farmhouse. There he's driving his car in. The car, heaterless and draughty as it was, seemed like a haven in an uncharitable world, and I gripped the wheel tightly with my woolen-gloved hands for a few moments before opening the door. The wind almost tore the handle from my fingers as I got out, but I managed to crash the door shut before stumbling over the frozen mud to the gate. Muffled as I was in heavy coat and scarf, pulled up to my ears, I could feel the icy gusts biting at my face, whipping up my nose and hammering painfully into the air spaces in my head. I had driven through and, streaming-eyed, was about to get back into the car when I noticed something unusual. There was a frozen pond just off the path, and among the rime-covered rushes which fringed the dead opacity of the surface, a small object stood out, shiny black. What is that object? There is the little object. Can you see what it is? It's a little kitten, isn't it? I went over and looked closer. It was a tiny kitten, probably about 6 weeks old, huddled and immobile, eyes tightly closed. Bending down, I poked gently at the furry body. It must be dead. A morsel like this couldn't possibly survive in such cold. But no, there was a spark of life because the mouth opened soundlessly for a second, then closed. Quickly, I lifted the little creature and tucked it inside my coat. As I drove into the farmyard, I called to the farmer, who was carrying 2 buckets out of the calf house. "I've got one of your kittens here, Mr. Butler. It must have strayed outside." Mr. Butler put down his buckets and looked blank. "Kitten? We haven't got no kittens at present." I showed him my find, and he looked more puzzled. Well, that's a rum 'un. There's no black cats on this spot. We've all sorts of colors, but no black 'uns. "Well, he must have come from somewhere else," I said, though I can't imagine anything so small traveling very far. It's rather mysterious. And there is the vet with the little kitten all tucked in his coat, talking to the man who owns the farm. The vet's out to see some of his cows. I held the kitten out, and he engulfed it in his big, work-roughened hand. "Poor little beggar, he's only just alive. I'll take him into the house and see if the missus can do aught for him." So there the kitten is in his great big hands. They have a dog there on the farm. And there is their tractor. It's a red tractor. Let's see what will happen next. In the farm kitchen, Mrs. Butler was all concerned. Oh, what a shame. She smoothed back the bedraggled hair with one finger, and it's got such a pretty face. She looked up at me. What is it, anyway, a him or a her? I took a quick look behind the hind legs. It's a Tom. Right, she said. I'll get some warm milk into him, but first of all, we'll have to get him the old cure. She went over to the fireside oven on the big black kitchen range, opened the door, and popped him inside. I smiled. It was the classical procedure when newborn lambs were found suffering from cold and exposure. Into the oven they went, and the results were often dramatic. Mrs. Butler left the door partly open, and I could see just the little black figure inside. He didn't seem to care much what was happening to him. And there's one of their other cats there. And this is their oven where they would cook their food. And they've got a fire going there to make the heat. And this just makes a nice warm spot to put the kitten in. And this is what's going to happen next. So the vet is out there to help with the cow's sore foot. There's that kitten following him around. What else do you see there? Oh, I see a baby calf. He looks like he's trying to lick his back. And the farmer is holding up the leg of the cow so that the vet can take care of it. Dr. Harriet. The next hour I spent in the briar wrestling with the hind feet of a cow. The cleats were overgrown and grossly misshapen and upturned, causing the animal to hobble along on her heels. My job was to pare and hack away at the excess horn, and my long-held opinion that the hind feet of a cow were never meant to be handled by a man was thoroughly confirmed. We had a rope round the hock and the leg pulled up over a beam in the roof, but the leg still pistoned back and forth while I hung on until my teeth rattled. By the time I had finished, the sweat was running into my eyes, and I had quite forgotten the cold day outside. Still, I thought as I eased the kinks from my spine when I had finished that there were compensations. There was the satisfaction in the sight of the cow standing comfortably on two almost normal-looking feet. Well, that's summat like, Mr. Butler grunted. Come into the house and wash your hands. So there's the cow after they finished standing on the 2 feet. We're going to see what happened with the kitten. In the kitchen, as I bent over the brown earthenware sink, I kept glancing around at the oven. Mrs. Butler laughed. Oh, he's still with us. Come and have a look. It was difficult to see the kitten in the dark interior, but when I spotted him, I put out my hand and touched him, and he turned his head towards me. He's coming around, I said. That hour in there has worked wonders. Doesn't often fail, the farmer's wife lifted him out. I think he's a tough 'un. She began to spoon warm milk into the tiny mouth. I reckon we'll have him lapping in a day or two. You're going to keep him then? Too true we are. I'm going to call him Moses. Moses? Ah, you found him among the rushes, didn't you? I laughed. That's right. It's a good name. And there she is, giving the little kitten a little lap of milk from a spoon. She had to stop making her apple pie to feed the kitten. I was on the Butler farm about a fortnight later, and I kept looking around for Moses. A fortnight is 2 weeks' time. Farmers rarely have their cats indoors, and I thought that if a black kitten had survived, he would have joined the feline colony around the buildings. farm cats have a pretty good time. They may not be petted or cosseted, but it has always seemed to me that they lead a free, natural life. They are expected to catch mice, but if they are not so inclined, there is abundant food at hand, bowls of milk here and there, and the dog's dishes to be raided if anything interesting is left over. So here he's back out at the farm. Looks like the farmer is on his tractor today, and there's that yellow cat again, the striped cat. I guess that's their barn there. He's looking around to see if he saw the kitten. I had seen plenty of cats around today, some flitting nervously away, others friendly and purring. There was a tabby loping gracefully across the cobbles, and a big tortoise shell was curled on a bed of straw, yawning and tired, at the warm end of the briar. Cats are connoisseurs of comfort. That means they look for comfort, comfortable place to be. When Mr. Butler went to fetch some hot water, I had a quick look in the bullock house, and the white Tom regarded me placidly from between the bars of a hay rack where he had been taking a siesta. But there was no sign of Moses. So here are all the cats. There's the one on the cobblestone. And there's the one, the tabby cat, that's all curled up asleep. And there's the white cat looking all sleepy up where they keep the hay. I finished drying my arms and was about to make a casual reference to the kitten when Mr. Butler handed me my jacket. "Come around here with me if you've got a minute," he said. "I got something to show you." I followed him through the door at the end and across the passage into a long, low-roofed piggery. That's where they keep the pigs. He stopped at a pen about halfway down and pointed inside. "Look here," he said. I leaned over the wall, and my face must have shown my astonishment because the farmer burst into a shout of laughter. "That's something new for you, isn't it?" And this is what he saw. There, right in the middle, who do you see? I see Moses. Let's see what they tell us about this picture. I stared unbelievingly down at a large sow, that's a mother pig, stretched comfortably on her side, suckling a litter of about 12 piglets, and right in the middle of a long pig row, furry black and incongruous, was Moses. He had a teat in his mouth and was absorbing his nourishment with the same rapt enjoyment as his smooth-skinned fellows on either side. "What the devil?" I gasped. Mr. Butler was still laughing. "I thought you'd never have seen anything like that before. I never have any road. But now, how did it happen?" I still couldn't drag my eyes away. "It was the missus' idea," he replied. "When she got the little youth lapping milk, she took him out to find a right warm spot for him in the buildings. She settled on this pen because, I think me most tired, because the sow, Bertha, had just had a litter and had a heater in and was grand and cozy." I nodded. Sounds just right. And there they are looking down at the mother sow and all of her little piglets eating. And there is little Moses, must have finished her breakfast there. His breakfast. "Well, she put Moses in a bowl of milk in here," the farmer went on, "but the little feller didn't stay by the heater very long. Next time I looked in, he was round at the milk bar." I shrugged my shoulders. "They say you see something new every day at this game, but this is something I've never even heard of. Anyway, he looks well on it. Does he actually live on the sow's milk, or does he still drink from his bowl? A bit of both, I reckon. It's hard to say. Anyway, whatever mixture Moses was getting, he grew rapidly into a sleek, handsome animal with an unusually high gloss to his coat, which may or may not have been due to the porcine element of his diet. There Moses is, as a growing up cat. I never went to the butler's without having a look in the pig pen. Bertha, his foster mother, seemed to find nothing unusual in this hairy intruder and pushed him around casually with her pleased grunts, just as she did with the rest of her brood. Moses, for his part, appeared to find the society of the pigs very congenial. When the piglets curled up together and settled down for a sleep, Moses would be somewhere in the heap, and when his young colleagues were weaned at 8 weeks, he showed his attachment to Bertha by spending most of his time with her. And there's Moses, all curled up with his little pig siblings. And there he is, sticking by his adopted mama, Bertha. And it stayed that way over the years. Often he would be right inside the pen, rubbing himself happily along the comforting bulk of the sow. But I remember him best in his favorite place, crouching on the wall, looking down, perhaps meditatively, on what had been his first warm home. And that's the end. There he is, looking out at the farm, his first warm home.